start off with what Local 700 is. So, as an editor, when you're first graduating from college and you want to start working in post production, television, film, what you have to do is basically you start off non union, and non union is reality TV. So, you start off as a post PA. And as a post PA, you're helping the post producers, and then from there, you can move into an assistant editor. But what you do is you have to collect hours in order to join the union. And I feel, as everybody has heard, there's a strike going on right now. And the writers just resolved that. Now SAG is still on strike. We are part of the IATSE umbrella as well. So union means that you are working for a studio. Most studios, they can't hire you if it's, so any TV show that you see, Netflix, Hulu, whatever, we are part of Local 700. So as you're moving up, you're doing non-union. It's like paying your dues. You do non-union, you collect your hours, and then you're eligible to join a union, which for editors is called Local 700. For cinematographers is Local 600. So everybody has like their own local, and you join that, and that means that you're part of this IATSE umbrella, and everybody becomes union. So that's why with the strike that's been going on for so long, it has impacted a lot of us because we can't take work because there is no work. Because if writers aren't writing, editors can't edit, directors can't direct, actors can't act. So that's what Local 700 means. It just means that you are part of the union, which allows you to work for studios. The only thing that's non-union would be commercials, some commercials, not all of them, but some commercials, reality TV. So you can go and edit for like America's Got Talent or those like cook-off shows. And that's basically an in as an editor. You have to get those jobs to collect enough hours so you can show the union and say, hey, I'm because when you join a union, you're supposed to be experienced. You're supposed to have the experience already. They're not just gonna like take anyone. I started off, I graduated college. As soon as I graduated college, I started looking for internships. I was just up at night looking for anything I could throw myself into. I really wanted to work for Warner Brothers. That was one of my big goals. And after interning for miscellaneous things, I finally got a call from Warner Brothers that they were looking for a post animation intern. And it was animation. I wasn't interested in animation, but I knew it was a way in. And it got me into the doors of Warner Brothers, which is like, I was shocked that I just went to the career website and I got a call. And they said, hey, we have an internship. Do you want to come interview? And that's kind of what started my career. I interviewed for the job, not the job. It's a paid internship, actually. There's like non-paid and paid, but Warner Brothers was forced to pay, which is really nice. And I interned as a post PA over the summer, and I basically was like poking different people, like, hey, I went to film school. I know how to use like Final Cut and Adobe. Like, you guys tell me what you need. I'd be happy to, put my skills at use if any of you guys need any of that. And honestly, I feel like that's what helped me and has helped me moved up, is that I'm always asking someone like, hey, can I help you with something, or what do you do? And I think that's so important. You can't be shy. Like, it's hard for me to branch out and talk to other people, but it's so important that if you get an opportunity to intern, you have to just meet everybody in the building, ask them what they do, ask how you can help. And I eventually met with the post producer that was looking for a animation coordinator, which was kind of like an actual position. It wasn't an internship. And I ended up getting that job as an animation coordinator. And then after like a year and a half, they needed an assistant editor, which is the next step. They told me I was still too young, which is ridiculous. Like, that's not, I don't know. That was just like an excuse for them to dismiss me. And they said, we can't give you this job because you're not part of this union and blah, blah, blah. So I quit. I was like, okay, if I can't grow here, I'm going to quit. And what I did is I ended up going to a commercial post house that was non-union. and they were doing like really cool stuff for like Key and Peele when the show was going on. I was able to learn. I was an assistant editor, and they were, I mean, this company was making commercials, working for Key and Peele, and I was able to learn more. And they hired me as an assistant editor. And after 3 months, I got my union hours, and then I quit, and then I left that job to join the union, and I ended up getting a job on a season 1 Seth MacFarlane show, um the guy that created Family Guy. This show was called Bordertown, which was based on like immigrants, and like it was a show that didn't make it past the first season, but it is there. And then I ended up from there I went on and I kept assisting, and I assisted on the Goldbergs, on Hentified. There was a Netflix show called Hentified, and I kept assisting. I was assisting editors, and you get to do a lot of cool stuff when you're assisting editors, because you kind of get to learn how they work, how they edit, how they, like, you're basically looking at your future position if that's what you want to do. So you kind of get a sense of like how to work with creators, because you're sitting in rooms with creators, and that was just the next step, which is really helpful. And then when I moved into an editor, I knew what to do because I was an assistant editor. So when you're an editor, they go out and they film, and they give you the footage. So you get the footage, and you're basically given a ton of dailies, and they give you a script. And once you have a script, you have your dailies, you have to put the scenes together. And you start building your editor's cut. So you're grabbing all the footage and making sense of it and picking the best takes. And you create your editor's assembly, which is essentially the entire 30-minute, 1 hour show. And once you have your editor's assembly, then you submit that to the director, and the director comes and gives us his pass. So you sit with the director, and the director will have his notes, and he'll give you his notes like, hey, I remember I shot this take that I really liked, or let's take off the scene, I don't think it worked, or it's blah blah blah. And then after the director's cut, it goes to the producers. So then the producers come and they sit with you and they give you their pass of notes, and they'll do the same thing. They'll tell me like, hey, I really like let's try this take, or was there a take where he wasn't so smiley, or like, I don't like how sad this this shot is, or blah blah blah. So once the directors get their pass, then the studio looks at it. Once the studio looks at it, I get notes from Netflix, and Netflix will tell me like, hey, really really love the show, really love the episode, but can we trim a few minutes, it's getting a little long. Or they also give notes on music, because I'm putting temp score as I go, and I'll pick songs that I like, but then eventually they'll change into like what can be approved, because that's a whole big deal too. Like you can't just slap a song in there. Like you have to go through the rights from the publishers and the writers. And so and then from there, the studio gives its final notes. We lock the show, and an assistant editor would deliver it to the whoever's doing all the finishes, and that's when it gets ready to air. So they up-res all the footage, they do all the graphics, they go through all the legal stuff, the credits, and then that's what you would watch on TV. I've been very lucky. I've worked with amazing creators that have been just so fun to work with. It all depends on who you work with. They allow me to be creative, and they work well. We work well together. So I've had great experiences, but it definitely can be really, really stressful, and really long hours. It's not a walk in the park. You're definitely working a lot longer. And as an editor, on as part of the guild, you're guaranteed 60 hours a week. I have a toddler, and oftentimes like I want to go home and put her to bed. And I've had a lot of producers that are also parents, and it's just been great because we support each other. Like we shouldn't have to pick one or the other. Even creators, like I've been editing with creators, and they say, hey, don't you have to put your daughter to bed? Let's
Wow.
connect in like 2 hours and keep going. So I've
Yeah.
had a lot of that, where like they're so thoughtful when it comes to my personal life, even though they don't have to be. Um, And it's just really nice when you work with people like that. And I've just been very
Yeah.
lucky. Started off film school wanting to be a director. And
Mm.
I joke that every time when you're in LA, you throw a rock and you hit, a director. There's a lot for me, that's still something I want to do. And being an editor is something that can make that happen because as an editor, I have met so many editors that eventually become directors on the TV show they're working on. So they edit and
Mm.
direct. And a lot of them just go on to direct television full time. Um, so I would still love to tap into that. And, I would
Mm.
love to get more into like HBO shows or like miniseries. So that's still my goal. I've worked with a lot of great companies. I would definitely love to finally get to a point where I can like edit an HBO show. Like I'm really interested in like miniseries. Whenever they do like the miniseries, I would love to like work on that. Um, and as an editor, even now, like, I strive to diversify my resume, because I have been working on, I speak Spanish, I'm fluent in Spanish, so I have
Mm.
worked on shows that have, like, I worked on Acapulco.
Mm.
Neon is not in Spanish, but that one's also a show that, like, kind of talks about our Latin culture. And so did Primo. Primo's another one for Amazon Freebie, and it was just about a Mexican American family, and it didn't have any
Mm.
Spanish, but it's just things that like I worked on Kenan Thompson's show. My goal is always to diversify myself so I don't get stuck with just like comedy or like
Okay.
drama. Like to me it's important to branch out and do different genres and different
Hmm.
topics just because it's fun for me. It's fun for me to not get stuck into like, oh, you're the Latin girl, so you're only gonna cut shows that are, that have to do with your culture, which I love. Honestly, I think representation is so important. And I'm glad that I can be that because you don't see many women editors. Like there are a lot of us, but still, like I walk in the room and oftentimes I'm the only one.
Mm.
And I'm the only one that speaks Spanish. And it's like, guys, let's diversify here. And I'm just really happy that I'm different. I look different. I'm a Latina and that
Mm.
I can be part of the change that is needed in our industry.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing it change. And also whenever I hire my assistant editors, I go out of my way to make sure it's a female because there's a lot of males out there.
Mm-hmm.
And not to say that I wouldn't hire because I have hired assistant editors that are males and they're amazing and great, but if I can open the door for more women to enter post production, I'm 100% gonna take that. And if I find the perfect person that's motivated, go getter, wants to learn, um, then I 100% give that opportunity.
Yeah.
Because I can teach them how to be an assistant editor because I was an assistant editor. So
Yeah.
because sometimes they tell you like go out there and get experience, but no one wants to give you experience because you haven't done anything.
Mm.
How are you supposed to get experience? It's like this thing that I'm like, it's hard.
Right.
It's hard to get your first job because they look at your resume and they say, oh, okay, so you worked as a waitress. And it's like, well, yeah, someone needs to give me, no, someone needs to throw me a bone first. um, so I kept hitting that wall when I was graduating from college and
Mm.
make sure that I'm part of that change because I'm willing to give an opportunity to someone that's hungry for learning and wanting to do this. Because how are you going to get your first opportunity? So,
Exactly. That's amazing that you do that. And I applaud you for that. That's a lot of what we're trying to uh, just lift up as well. Um, Also, not just having the diverse audience that we have, making sure that whoever we bring in on stage or in the room is somebody who you can relate to, whether it be because they look like me, they've got a life experience like me, just any kind of a connection. But we too are very much wanting to be a part of the change
yeah.
and lift up every qualified and smart and talented person, and if you have to dig a little bit harder, you should to get those different voices and experiences, telling stories or in roles behind the
Mhm.
camera roles. So I applaud you for just having that you probably got that from somewhere, some mentor or family member or something just said, you need to give back, sister.
Yeah, and you know what? Like I'm an immigrant. Like my parents brought me here when I was 11,
Mm,
and I saw them like go through the worst. And
mm,
I feel like when I was younger, I used to think that you had to be privileged to be in the film industry. Like it just didn't seem something that I could do because we were low income. I wasn't living in LA. We were just like struggling. And once I went to college, and my parents were also like American dream, like we came here for the American dream, like
mm,
and that's something that I learned through my parents, that like you don't give up. And
mhm.
they came to this country with nothing. They didn't know anybody, and a few years later they bought their first house, and they slowly started progressing here. And just seeing them do that with three small kids, I was like, what's
Yeah,
stopping me from like I didn't at the time, I didn't have kids. It was just me. Like if I failed, I could go home. Like I knew. And even then, like I was like, I'm just taking care of me. And that really just helped me just not give up, because a lot of
mm,
people shut doors in front of my face, and I was just like, okay, cool. That they said no. It's not gonna kill me. What's the worst thing that can happen? People say no. Move on
yeah,
to the next door. And that's what I kept doing. I just kept like, okay, seven no's. Great. Let's keep going
yeah,
until someone says
that's
yes.
right. Somebody's going to say yes.
Someone's gonna knock on your door and hand you your dream. Like
That's right.
I
That's
said, with
right.
with this industry, you really have to hustle, and you really
Yeah,
have to want it, and
yeah.
understand that it's not glamorous.
No.
But if you have a goal in mind, you gotta hustle. You gotta go out, drive to. I mean, at least for me here, it was driving to LA, like figuring out how am I gonna get to LA, because that's where all the industry is, all the
Hmm.
major studios. Going online and like looking for internships. Um,
Hmm.
and people can't sleep on that, because internships is the reason how a lot of us get to where we are, because
Yeah.
we apply for those positions. And there's just isn't and there's also isn't like a structure of like you start here and you go there. You're gonna wear multiple hats until you find
Hmm.
that one person that can help you get into the right path.
Yeah.
But you're gonna be doing a lot of different things, and as long as you're
Hmm.
in the right place with the right people, that's how you get in.
Yeah.
um and you just can't, there's just no room to just be lazy, I guess. Like you
Hmm.
just have to be on it,
Because
because
a
the
hundred
deal's
people
not
are,
bad.
yeah, but 100 people will, run over you,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
and life moves really fast, honestly. And
Yeah.
it's like, and I feel like once you graduate college, you still have that like hunger in you to
Mhm.
like, and the more you delay that, the more you're like, well, it's like it's in LA, it's like an hour, 2 hour drive, and like I don't know where I would go. And
Mhm.
I was volunteering at film festivals. There were
Wow.
so many film festivals in LA. There was so many different things like that, and it was all free. And
Mhm.
I was like, volunteering my time because I knew I was going to meet people. And that's how I'm here. That's how I'm editing television. That's